All right, if you have a question about body language, send it to me. bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll answer them. That's what I'm doing right now, answering questions that come in. All right, here's the first one. What is the story on hand steepling? Should I do it or not? That's actually a good question. You see it all the time, especially that guy from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful. He does it all the time. Of course, he's supposed to be the bad guy on there, so nobody likes him, or a lot of people don't like him. Here's the thing about steepling, though. When you do that, you're supposed to be the person in charge and knows what you're talking about, and you're supposed to be projecting that. That's what that shows, that you feel confident and dominant in that situation, right? Let's say me and you are at the top of some building. We're on the very top floor, really far up, and there's a fire that breaks out, right? And there's other people there too. And somebody comes in and says, "Oh, we can't get out of here because there's the stairwell is on fire, and the elevator doesn't work. What are we going to do?" If somebody says this, if they go, "I think there's a window in the bathroom. We can climb out the roof and maybe get down that way." Or you see somebody say this, "I know what we're going to do. In the bathroom, there's a window. Seen it 1,000 times. I've looked at it out of it 1,000 times. We can climb out that window and get off the roof." What do you think about that? That's what I'm going to do. The person who looks like they know what's going to happen next, that's the person you want to listen to. Even in situations like that, you don't want to listen to that person who looks like they don't know what they're talking about or aren't sure. You want to listen to the person who looks like they know exactly what's going to happen next and exactly what they're talking about. So, yeah, steeple. There's nothing wrong with it. People will say it is, "Oh, he thinks or she thinks." Yeah, but about what anybody says or thinks, do what you want. It makes you look like you're in charge, but you got to do it at the right times. Don't do it in a weird, spot. When you're driving and put your, "I'll tell you what I ought to do," and have your knees steering, and you're like, "I'll tell you what we ought to do." None of that. But when you're talking about something important, your thing, yeah, there's nothing wrong with steepling at all. Do it. I do it. Everybody does it when they know what they're talking about. Let's see. Can you tell us about a time when you read someone's body language incorrectly, how you found out you were wrong, and what you learned from it? Yeah. Okay. If you ever watch the behavior panel, sometimes when it comes up, we talk about somebody getting hit or some kind of violence in an interrogation room or something like that. I shouldn't be telling this, I'm going to tell anyway. One time, when that comes up, you'll see them look at me. You'll see them all look down or look up at my square. Greg will look to his. I don't know, left or right, whatever. I'm dyslexic. But you'll see everybody look at me. Chase will get a weird look on his face too, and he'll sort of laugh. Because one time I made a mistake of telling him this. There was somebody, and I think I've told this on here on this channel. I can't remember because I've answered so many questions. But this guy I was talking to, when somebody gets mad, what's going to happen is this. Their face is going to get all red. Their nostrils are going to flare a little bit. You may see a little bit of teeth. And then they're going to squint. But when they squint, that could be, they could be getting mad. They're getting mad there. When they squint, and then you can see the whites of their eyes as they squint, they're pretty mad. That person's really mad. Then what's going to happen, since their face is red, their face is going to turn like white or gray because all the blood is leaving their face and it's going to the muscles of their arms and legs and heart. Because they're going to do something. They're going to run. That's almost like freeze, fight, or flight. But this person has decided they're going to do something, and you have to be ready for that, right? Especially when you're close to them. So anyway, I saw that happening. And as I'm talking to this person, I saw, oh, wow, there it is. All right, I got this one. Oh, yeah, he's looking mad. He's not. And then I saw the eyes squint up, and I was like, he's getting mad. And I saw that happen. And then I was like, there they are. There it is. All mad and stuff. Just thinking this. I'm not looking like this as I'm thinking it. I'm looking like mad. And when he does that, his face gets red. And I'm like, there it is. Flush face. All right. He's angry now. And then the flush went away. And I was like, all right, man. Yeah, he's coming. There it is. The flush went away, and he's going to, and then he just knocked the living out of me. So, yeah. And that's what I learned is when it comes to observing someone's behavior, you've got to keep that at a third person almost when you're dealing with somebody who could do something to you or might do something to you in a dangerous situation. It's not dangerous, but a situation where somebody may hit you. Let's say they're getting that mad. Look for those things. But once you see they're the triggers happening that tell you they're going to be violent, like that one, pay attention to it. Focus on that and act accordingly. That was my lesson. You can get really into body language and you start zeroing in on everything and not paying attention to what you're doing. You're just looking at it from a clinical perspective. That's a problem. That can be a real problem sometimes. So that's my experience there. While learning more about body language, I've become more cognizant and self-conscious about my own. Did you ever struggle with that problem? And do you have any tips for it? Yeah, when you first start learning body language, it's this very same thing as when you start learning about psychopaths. Believe it or not, there's a correlation there, and I'm going to tell you what it is. For me, anyway, once you start learning about psychopaths, you say, oh, they do this, this, and that. Everybody you've ever met from the time you were in the fourth grade, you're thinking, guy sat behind me is a psychopath. I knew he was in the fourth grade. I knew he was because he did this, this, and this. Same thing happens. You think because you know this or that you have knowledge about behavior that everybody has it. So you really start paying attention to the way you act and how you say things and how you deliver your information. And sometimes when you do that, it just makes you look weird. It makes you look untrustworthy, not trustable, because it's just weird. It's not you. So don't focus on that as much. Of course, when you go into a business thing or you're dealing with somebody you don't know, don't do things like cross your arms because they think it means you're not into what they have to say or you're not interested. Pay attention to the big stuff. Look at them and talk to them. That's part of body language, is how you connect with someone. But don't just focus on everything, because then you'll be up in your head and you won't be able to take in all the information they're giving you. You won't be able to have a normal conversation. You won't be able to be you because you're trying to be this person that isn't you, because even though you would have done this, you would just stand there like this. And people can see that pretty quick. You know how AI, when you see a person who's created by AI, how they just look weird? You really can't put your finger on it sometimes because it's getting so good. Not the face swap stuff, but I'm saying when they create one from nothing, it's just a human that doesn't exist, one of those, they'll start getting that feeling. Same feeling you get when you see those and you go, it looks real. It looks real. But it's not because of how weird it's acting. It's not illustrating where it should. It's not blinking as often as it should. It doesn't vary. So many things. The breathing rate is weird, because it's like going to Disney World and going to the Hall of Presidents back when they had audio animatronics. And when I was a little kid, that was the first time I'd ever seen like a robot for real. These things would get up and stand, and it'd be Abraham Lincoln sitting down in his chair, and he'd get up, and it looked like he walked over there and he'd go, 70 years ago. And it was a robot. We were like, wow, that looks real. And we would accept it as much as we could as kids. We'd like, wow, that looks so real. That's where we are with AI. Wow, that looks so real. And that's the way they're going to look at you. It does look real, but you're not going to feel normal or natural about it. Or they won't toward you because you're not being you. So it's important to be you. Don't worry about that. Just worry about the big things. Talk to them, make eye contact with them. Not too much. Gets weird quick. Man, don't worry about that. You mentioned in a previous video to keep up on research, how you keep up on research papers and body language. It's a hobby for me right now, but I'd love to dig into the research. Where do you find research papers, and how do you know which ones are legitimate? I think I know what you're saying. When I find research, there are certain things you can become a member of, and you can get all kinds of stuff from universities, and you can have your special, your specialized section, behavior, neurology, those kind of things, and you can get into one of those, and you can get to them fairly quickly. A lot of those things are free; they don't cost anything. That's where I get mine. Is I'd say 80% of it. I want to say 90, but I think 80% of it's probably just from finding them online and making sure those are valid. Because once you see a study and you go, this sounds crazy, then you got to start looking up and see if they've written anything before that or after that or anything similar to that. Make sure that person exists. I've had to do that a few times, and I've never been wrong. The person's always existed, but I'm kind of paranoid about that stuff because it has to be right. Has to be correct. So I make sure. That's one of the ways I do it. So don't be afraid to call them. Don't be afraid to email them to ask them. Some people love to talk about it. They want to talk about their work. And they'll, just like I will. Talk about it all day long. I love it. And probably you do, because you're probably getting into this now too, if you're not deep into it already, as a hobby. You want to learn as much as you can. And that's great. You know, that's the way I feel about it every day when I get up. I'm like, yeah. So you may be feeling that way right now too. So don't be afraid to email them. Say, hey, listen, I heard you have a study about so-and-so. Could you tell me about that or where I could find it? Bang, that's it. Thanks so much. They love that. Some of them. Some of them hate it. But, who cares? Think of what you'll learn if you just go ahead and try it. Nothing wrong with trying. Nothing wrong with trying. Can I get all of the books I need on body language and behavior on a Kindle? Yeah. I haven't really looked for anything that I haven't been able to find. There are some old books you can't get, like really old stuff. But that stuff's been rewritten about in other books. But there are a lot of things but I can't really name a whole lot of them, just the really old stuff. But there's stuff online that you can find PDFs of those things online if you want. And if you get a Kindle, here's mine. You see, you can get everything on there. That's one of the Ekman book. I reread those things a lot to make sure I'm not missing anything or to make sure it's in there good. And you can actually, these PDFs I'm telling you about, let's see if I've got it on this one. I got a couple of these. Wait a minute. Kindles, one that I just read. And see, the thing about Kindle, you do get pictures and stuff in there. I don't know if you can see that very well. But see, you can get pictures in there. All that stuff. They're really cool. Let's see, what's this way? Well, see, and you can highlight stuff, and you can actually have the highlights of every book sent to you in one PDF. Kindle does so much for you like that. You should look at it. There's a guy named Manit Paul. I've talked about him on here before. Go check out his channel. If you want to know anything about a Kindle, that's his bag, man. He'll tell you all about it, how to get it. So you can have websites sent in PDF form to your Kindle. All the notes you make in a book, you can have them sent to your Kindle in a PDF. And PDFs read just like books in there. Wait a minute, while we're talking about this, it's unbelievable all you can do. And he's got all that figured out. That's where I learned how to do all my stuff was from Manit Paul. You'll really like that. Let's see, library. And everything goes on your Kindle. So when you have PDFs, I've got so much stuff on here. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Psychopathic tendencies linked to patterns of wait a second. Load up. Sometimes it takes a minute. That's what the PDFs look like when they're on there. Come on. There. See, whoops, wait a minute. It's too bright. But see, that's one of the PDFs, and I have it in that dyslexic font. So it puts the dyslexic font on your PDFs. And go watch one of Manit Paul's videos on that, because he'll do one video and tell you everything in the one video about it. And then when something else comes along, he'll say everything and add that in there too. So all this stuff is great. But see, that's what a PDF looks like when you get to study. So it's really easy to study, easy to read, and you can take Kindle anywhere. You can pretty much get anything you want on them. And it also does audiobooks. Use Bluetooth to it, and you can listen to your book on there. Huh? So, and if you get the book and the audiobook together, when you're finished reading, the audiobook, in other words, knows where you left off, and it starts there where you left off. It's bizarre. They're not expensive. You should check it out if you're into that kind of thing. You should check it out. I should give one away. I'm gonna think about that. I may give one away. But go check out Manit Paul. His channel is the Kindle channel. If you want to know anything about him, go there. He'll answer all your questions. And he answers the comments too, like I do. So give him a watch. You'll love it. Is the body language different in a right brain person compared to a left brain person? Is that true? Well, that's now become known as the right brain, left brain myth. Why is that? There was a study done, I think, in Utah about that. I'll put the link below because I remember the study. So I'll put the link right above the comments. And it talks about that because they ran tests with fMRI or with MRI, and looked at what was happening in the brain for so-called left brain people and right brain people to see the difference. What they know is what they've always known, or what they discovered is what they've always known. The brain works in tandem. They both work at the same time, unless there's a part of the brain that's damaged in a car wreck or a stroke or something like that. Then different parts of the brain take over. But your left half of your brain, what is it supposed to do? I don't know what it's supposed to do. Creativity, I think. Say the left half of your brain does creativity? Nope. They found out that's not true. Right brain is just the analytical stuff. No, not true. They work together, and it both handles both of those parts. So just because they're two hemispheres doesn't mean everything's housed for creativity in one and analytics in the other. And I'm looking at my question about my hat. I'm not wearing the hat I usually wear. I'm wearing this because I need a haircut. What is this? I need a haircut, and I haven't had one. Oh no. I don't know what that is. Anyway, if I wear my hat like this, I look like Elmer Fudd. So that's why I always have to wear it backwards. Because if I don't, it makes me look goofy anyway. But it's less goofy if I wear it backwards. Oh my Lord, look at that. Look how big my forehead is. I got a 5 head. Good Lord. Was that extra face on Amber Heard's face during the trial of Johnny Depp? Extra faces where you don't want people to think you don't know you're being watched. If you'll look at her, that's a great example of it, but it's not the example of extra face, because you got this weird look, but she's acting like she's got those feelings. And the person who's got extra face is acting as well. It's extras in TV shows and movies, but this is acting specifically for to look concerned or to look worried or like she's been, like she's downtrodden, all that stuff. So you're just seeing horrible acting there. That's why you look at it and go, oh, because she's not good at that in that situation. And her acting is horrific in that. So, and that's my opinion. Shoot, some people love her, think she's awesome, think she's a great actress or actor. I don't know watching those movies, so I don't know. Maybe she's a great actor. I don't know. But I've never seen her act great. When she's in court, and it's all acting and horribly. Okay. I've noticed facial similarities in male psychopaths. The jawline is long and distinctive. For example, Ed Kemper, Richard Ramirez, and Aaron Campbell. Have you ever noticed that? You know what? No. People have facial features, and there are people who look mean, who aren't mean, that kind of thing. For psychopaths, the problem is not, it's a neurological problem. It has nothing to do with the way your facial features. There's no study in the world on the planet that shows that's true. You'll see people who aren't scientists or are not from universities or aren't in the medical business that have said things, that I think this is what happens when it means that. Doesn't mean anything. You're talking about a neurological situation with a psychopath, the amygdala specifically, the limbic system. That has nothing to do with facial features. It has nothing to do with the way you look. Good, bad, or ugly. Nothing at all. So no, there's no correlation between the way someone looks, if their ears are set low or set high, or their eyes are further apart than somebody else's, or their nose is big or normal sized. Because it's I don't want to say crazy talk because a lot of people are into that. I'm not slamming anybody at all. I'm just saying there's no correlation between that and psychopathy, someone's facial features. That's a good question, but I've heard that before, and it's just it bothers me that so many people think it's true. It looks like a psychopath. Some people do though, man. They look just like a psychopath. They get those eyes up because they get a look on their face, and you go, "Wow, that guy's crazy," or "She's nuts." And so they look like them, plus the classic psychopath you've seen in movies and TV shows. But there's no correlation in facial features and psychopathy. Not one. Not even a little one. So no, I wouldn't count on that at all. But when you go through and you look at the eyes and you go, well, the eyes are it's just the way they hold their eyes a little bit wide. Sometimes some of them. Most psychopaths, you never know they're psychopaths, and they don't either. because they haven't been raised in a violent environment or an environment that's odd, and they've never been exposed to a lot of violence, a lot of them, but they still have the clinical narcissist traits to them quite often. Some of them never have any idea that's what's going on. They're just getting along society and everything's fine. They always try to put themselves in a position of power, though. So look at that. That's what the studies show. But when a normal old person, quote unquote, is discovered to be a psychopath, and they're like, I don't know either. They are most likely from what the fMRI tells us. I'm sure they've had a study, and that's how they know. Somebody's done a study on them. But there are no facial features with that. I wouldn't worry about it. Do you think pitch correction will destroy our ability to hear a true voice? I appreciate that auto tune is used on a regular basis on lesser talents. I appreciate that auto tune is used regularly on lesser talents. Okay. I don't think it will. It's just pop music where you're hearing it most. Well, it's in all kinds of music now. When something sounds good and doesn't sound good. If you know what to listen for when something's being tuned, it just pops right. Remember the Cher song? That's one of the first time I ever heard it was done on that one, remember the song, Do You Believe in Love song. And we were like, oh, dude, that's what they're doing with it. Because we heard the tuning. We thought, well, it'll be a tuning thing, but they just wound it up as hard as it go. And when she sang, that's what happened. It's like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And when you listen to it now, it's still kind of cool sounding, but it's hilarious. But you use tuning very subtly. And it's when it's done properly, man, it's hard to catch. But it still has a tone to it when you hear it. Some people, not that the engineer isn't experienced when they're mixing, and not that the producer isn't experienced and can't hear it, but you can only do so much and get away with so much. And somebody will say, nobody's going to notice that, man, it's fine. Even you get in there and tweak, it still bugs me. So if you know what to listen for in those things, you can catch it every time. But if you don't know what to listen for, man, scooch right by and who cares? So I wouldn't say it's going to destroy your ability to hear a true voice. You're still hearing a true voice up to that part where it gets corrected. You're just not hearing their voice doing what it would have done if it was presented to you in its natural fashion. You never hear anything on the radio anyway that for a vocal that's normal. There is no normal on a vocal, even on books, even on here. There's compressor on my vocal on this. And compressors when you get into music and get engineering, that's one of the most famous topics of all time is the compressor, because people use them different ways. And basically what it does is if you've got a sound that the volume goes up and down like this, as you add a compressor, it compresses it, in other words, together. So the volume is even, so it doesn't go way loud and way quiet. That way, when I talk like this, and it's real quiet like this, you can still hear me because the compressor makes it sound the same volume, but you can tell I'm talking at lower volume. See how that works? And then when I go talk like this, real loud, it sounds loud, but it's not any louder than when I was talking lower. Yeah, it'll peak differently, but in that little range of volume that you've set everything at, it won't go too high and it won't go too low. We talk forever about that. That's music business stuff. When a person frowns, what is the name of the place between the eyes that makes up the frown? That's the glabella, this thing right here. It's sort of a little indentation right there. So when somebody frowns, you see those things come together. All those little muscles, they group there in that little section. That's the glabella. That's what happens there. All of that. And frowns, grief muscle, all that stuff. The grief muscle is above that, or what's known as the grief muscle. There's always an argument whether that is real or is it we see that upside down horseshoe form, but is it really because of grief and all that? There's a big argument there. They're not an argument, just some people think it does mean that, some people think it doesn't. So look it up and see what you think. Look into that because it's fascinating. Let's see. Talk about lip compression. What is that exactly? It's this. I'm going to go. I'm going because I talk about that all the time on here. But when somebody goes, And they just press their lips together. Some people call it disappearing lips. I call it stress mouth because you see it when someone's stressed most of the time. You'll always see it in those congressional hearings when someone's being asked a question about their ethics. If it's an ethical question, or if they're in trouble for something, you'll see them do that. Sometimes if you're talking to someone and you're under the impression they may have more information than they do, you may see them do that. And if they don't want to say something, they're trying to keep their mouth shut. In other words, you'll see them hold their mouth closed. Then you get close to lip pursing as that happens, which indicates or suggests that the person doesn't agree with what's happening or what's being said or that situation. So, but lip compression is just, you see somebody press their lips together. Some people call it lip grip. But that just lets you know there's an issue there, as Joe Navarro says. When you see something like that. When the lips disappear, an issue is near. I think that's what he says. All right, what else we got? Why do people often answer a question with another question? That's a good one. Why would you ask that? Because it's a way to give you time to think. They would obviously need time to think about it. They don't have the answer. You know, it's one of my favorite things when somebody starts, you say, did you take this or were you in there or whatever? Why would I do that? Why would I be the one to go in? And I always like to go, you're not answering, but there's someone I ask you that. Was that you or not? And then it's when they'll say, no. They'll shake their hand yes as they say no. Not all the time, sometimes. And it doesn't always mean they're being deceptive, because it could be, no, I didn't do it, which is obviously we talked about last time, the confirmation nod. They're confirming, no, I didn't do it. But they go, no, I didn't do it. And you see that just a little bit of a nod there that's not illustrating with the words. That's when you know they're being deceptive. Or you don't know it for sure. Let me watch it. I'm saying you have to be careful. You have to make sure they're being deceptive. It doesn't mean the same thing every time you see it. How's that sound? It doesn't. So you have to be careful with that. I get too worked up sometimes. And I'm thinking about somebody that I saw do that. That's why I'm going, yeah, they did it. And they did. So, all right, if you have any questions about body language, email them to me. bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll answer them.